enter the core. We've arrived. This is the Earth's core. It's molten iron and nickel. So hot, it glows yellow. And it's bigger than the moon. Everything that exists on Earth exists because of this. The heat that creates earthquakes and volcanoes, that keeps the continents moving and our planet active, comes from inside this. It looks like it's snowing. Up. As pressure drops between the core and the mantle, impurities rain out of the core's liquid metal, like bubbles escaping from an open soda bottle. The cooling crystallized minerals settle as dunes on the underside of the mantle. We've only just reached its outer edge. But already the core is more complex, more beautiful, and more dangerous than we'd ever imagined. Towering tornadoes of liquid metal.
Hail to the night.
There are dozens of them. Each one is thousands of kilometers high, tens of kilometers wide. The currents are spiraling up towards the core's outer edge and sinking back towards the center at a speed of about 10 kilometers a year. Slow by our standards, supersonic in geological terms. Speed up time by Every wonder we've seen, every terror, the core's heat drives them all. We can see the heat, feel it, but we still don't know why the core is so hot. What creates all this heat? The answer lies back in time, long before the Earth was born. 4.5 billion years ago, rocks circled the infant sun. As they collided, they released energy as heat. Most of this heat radiated out into space. But a small fraction stayed inside the growing wall of rock. We don't know precisely what the inner core is made of, how fast it's growing, when it first appeared, what role it plays. It's a scientific black hole at the heart of our planet. This is where science ends and speculation begins. But from the unknowable, impossible core come the things that make our world possible. Magnetism that protects our world from the sun's deadly rays and allows life to flourish. Mantle currents that drive the plates around the Earth. Precious gems. Their beauty captivates us. Their properties help power our technology.
4.5 meters tall, their size makes them slow and vulnerable. A Dilophosaurus. 2 of them. They're small and fast. Saurus is too big a meal for one Dilophosaurus, but not for 2. The dinosaurs have repopulated the Earth, but no species can tame this restless, volatile planet. The Earth's crust is thinning here. It's releasing lava, shaking with earthquakes, as though it's being stretched by some unseen force. And the same thing is happening all the way down what will be North America's eastern seaboard. The Earth's plates are on the move again. 190 million years ago, the great supercontinent of Pangaea breaks up. A vast slab of land has broken away. It creates a chasm, and this fills with a new ocean called the Tethys, over what will one day be the Middle East. Currents are pushing nutrients up into the coastal waters running along what will be Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran. And the nutrients attract fish in their millions. And with so much life, also comes death. Dead fish and plankton carpet the ocean floor. Over the next 10 million years, layers of rock will bury and eat dead creatures. Ancient fish and plankton will become oil. Every liter of fuel in our cars, every piece of plastic on the planet, the paint on our walls, the carpet under our feet, even the soap we wash with, almost all originated in this way. $180 million years ago. And further west, the North American plate is still moving away from the European and Asian plate. It happens slowly, at about 2.5 centimeters each year, the same speed as our fingernails grow. But hit fast forward, and a new ocean forms right beneath us, and new continents. Montreal moves away from Marrakesh, New York from West Africa. The world as we know it is taking shape. The chasm between the two continents fills to create a vast ocean, the Atlantic. And there in the middle a volcano. We've seen plates move before. We know it's caused by currents deep beneath the Earth's crust. This process is happening down there, right now. Sea floor has been torn in two and pushed up into a ridge of mountains and volcanoes. It's growing higher than the Himalayas and longer than the Rockies. The water's hot here. Molten lava is forcing its way out from deep inside the Earth. As the lava cools, it's creating a new range of volcanic mountains and new ocean floor. This is what's pushing the plates and Pangaea apart and rearranging our world.
The nightmare consumes me, compels me to serve, to kill.
You need further proof of how
It's this
insane the
geological
nightmare
activity
is.
that makes the Earth restless,
Even the fierce
creative,
heart of Urshak has
unique.
succumbed. Release him, I beg you!
And every time the planet reinvents itself, the things that live on it must adapt and evolve. Things like these. They're ichthyosaurs. Their reptile ancestors lived on land, but as the planet changed, so did they. They grew fins and moved into the newly formed Atlantic Ocean. This one is 6 meters long and fast. It travels at about 40 kilometers an hour. It's the ocean's fastest creature, the most efficient predator, and it's ruled the Earth's oceans for 50 million years. But now there's a new contender for the crown. A pliosaur. Longer than a bus, as heavy as a truck. Its jaws are immense, over 8 times more powerful than a great white shark's. And its teeth are 30 centimeters long. The Earth, and the creatures that live on it, has changed beyond recognition. This was once solid ground. Now it's the Atlantic Ocean. It was on this very spot that we stood and watched Amazons graze, and Dilophosaurs stalk their prey. The dinosaurs' world may be different, but they're as dominant as ever. They appear invincible. It's a shrew-like mammal, and it's evolved from the small number of mammals that survived the mass extinction 185 million years ago. It's also prey for the dinosaurs. This is why most mammals live in the trees or underground and venture out at night. Mammals are no threat to the dinosaurs. Nothing on Earth can challenge their dominance. Nothing on Earth. It's a lump of space rock, a large one. This asteroid is about 10 kilometers across. Bigger than Mount Everest. And it's traveling at over 70,000 kilometers an hour, straight towards the Earth. It's heading for the Gulf of Mexico, just off the Yucatan Peninsula. It travels so fast, blink and we'd miss the impact, unless we slow down time. It's a split second that will change the world forever. At the moment of impact, the asteroid's back edge is still at nearly 11,000 meters, the same height as a commercial aircraft flies. The asteroid strikes with such immense force, it destroys everything it hits. Even the asteroid itself instantly vaporizes. The impact unleashes the energy of millions of nuclear weapons. Nowhere is safe. Not even way up here. Some of these boulders are as big as entire city blocks. The blast wave races out from the impact zone like shrapnel from an exploding bomb.
4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3,
kilometers from where the asteroids strike, beware. The Earth is under attack from every direction. Boulders rain down. 3, 2, 1. Earthquakes shake the ground.
By the will of a nightmare lord.
4, 3,
And tsunamis batter coasts. But the onslaught has only just begun. The plume of molten rock and dust spreads out and engulfs the planet. The entire sky is acting like a giant sunlet.
Flatten you like sapling! 3, 2, 1.
Earth's surface heats up to 275 degrees.
1.
Vegetation begins to spontaneously grow. Even months after the smoke and ash still block out the sun's rays.
1.
With less sunlight, plants die, and the animals that eat them starve.
Flatten you like sapling!
Against this onslaught, it's hard to see how anything can survive.
4.
The dinosaurs' 165 million year reign is over. But the dinosaurs' demise is an opportunity for another species.
4. 3. 2.
Mammals.
1.
By living underground, they've avoided the heating of fires. And by eating anything and everything, they thrive while more selective eaters don't.
4. 3. 2. 1.
These are the unlikely inheritors of the dinosaurs' crown. Beware. And as one story ends, another
4.
begins.
3. 2. 1.
With the dinosaurs out of the way,
4.
this could be our ancestors' chance.
1.
Stamp and trample! Crush and crumple!
The dinosaurs are long dead. The planet is peaceful.
4. 3. 2. 1.
In this new world, our mammal ancestors are evolving. Beware.
The nightmare! By the will of the nightmare lord!
Beware.
4.
This lake, 47 million years ago, in what will one day be Germany, should be the perfect place to stop them.
2. 1.
Stamp and trample! Crush the free of this place! How I envy you!
4. 3. 2. 1.
This isn't like the mammals we saw earlier. Beware. Its eyes and brain are bigger. This is Darwinius massilae, or Ida. She looks like humans, but fossil evidence from our own time tells us these creatures could evolve into monkeys, apes, and eventually humans.
2. 1.
I will flatten you like sapling!
We're looking back through 47 million years of evolution to what may be one of our earliest known ancestors. The lake sits on a volcanic crater. It belches out noxious gas. Now, the lake that killed her will preserve her in its oxygen-depleted depths. One day, when the water has gone and Ida is fossilized in stone, we will discover her and recognize in this primitive primate what could be the very beginning of our own story. The story of human life. We're closer to understanding how everything we've seen, from ocean bacteria, through walking fish, and subterranean rodents, leads to us, and to understanding how our planet was made. "47 million years ago, and the atmosphere is much like our own. The temperature is 24 degrees Celsius, and a day lasts just under 24 hours. The Earth we're looking at now is almost identical to the planet we call home. Almost. The Earth's plates have been on the move again, with the continents on their backs. India moves north towards Asia. The Indian and Asian plates are locked in a titanic struggle. Neither plate is winning. Both plates begin to buckle. What was once ocean floor contorts upwards along a 2,500 kilometer line. A vast mountain range rises up. 1,500 meters, 4,500 meters. Now over 8,000 meters. These are the Himalayas. And there it is, the highest mountain of all. Mount Everest. When the snow on the peaks melts, it feeds great rivers. The Ganges, Indus, Yangtze, and Yellow rivers. The Himalayas are like a vast water tower. One day their rivers will supply water for almost half the world's population. $20 million years ago, this is our planet, with every continent, every ocean, just as we know it. Except there's one thing missing. Us. The human race. For humans to evolve, something somewhere down there has to change. Along Africa's east coast, between the plates that make up the Earth's crust, a great rift opens up. The rift stretches nearly 6,000 kilometers. Along its edge, mountains grow. There. It looks like an ape, not a human. It might stay in these trees forever, but its world is changing. The growing mountains act like a wall. They stop moisture from the Indian Ocean passing over the land. It's getting hotter and drier. The lush rainforest is becoming arid savanna. The new hotter climate destroys the creature's habitat. It forces them to search further afield for food, to stop dragging their knuckles on the floor like apes, to stand and walk on 2 feet. It's the most important step in the human story. This mountain range along Africa's east coast could be the reason we walk on 2 feet. It seems incredible. The random movement of 2 plates may have kick-started a chain of events that will lead to the first humans. A man and child. It could be a scene from our own time. But it's 1.5 million years ago. These are an early species of
5,
human
4,
called Homo
3,
erectus.
2, 1.
You should have fled.
And these are the first footprints
Feed your
like our own.
bones to the storm crows.
Civilizations past and present. Everyone that's
4,
ever lived.
3,
The greatest inventions, the most brilliant ideas. Human history, in all its complexity and splendor, begins here and now.
Four, three, two, one.
Tremble before my fury.
The climate changes again. 70,000 years ago, sea levels fall. The gap between Africa and Arabia shrinks down to just 13 kilometers. The Red Sea is lower and shallow enough for this small group to cross out of Africa. They're another, later species of
4,
human
3,
called Homo sapiens.
1.
Beware.
Tremble before my fury.
Beware the cross. Scientists believe every man, woman and child outside of Africa is descended from these 200 or so individuals.
I will flatten you like saplings.
Over time, our ancestors multiplied and spread out to India, onto Asia, and into Europe.
4, 3, 2, 1.
But while humans head north, a giant wall of ice travels south. Beware.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Europe. 40,000 years ago.
Stamp and
Our
trample.
Homo sapiens ancestors are all only to find a world that's changing fast. It's getting colder. It should be the height of summer, but the plants are frostbitten.
1.
The rivers are frozen. Beware. Natural changes in the Earth's orbit. CO2 levels beware, and the flow of warm water around the planet conspire to lower the Earth's temperature.
1.
The Earth and its inhabitants enter an ice age. Glaciers as high as skyscrapers creep over the northern hemisphere 30 centimeters a day. Slow and powerful, they sculpt the landscape all over, gouging out great formations. The planet will never look the same again. Now beware around With trillions of gallons of water locked up as ice, sea levels fall.
4, 3, 2, 1.
20,000 years ago, a strip of land emerges from the ocean between Siberia and Alaska. It's a bridge between two vast continents. A groove that takes humans from Asia to a new world.
2, 1.
It's the last great continent to be colonized. The last great human migration. And somewhere down there are the first Americans.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, 14,000 years ago, the changes that triggered the Ice Age go into reverse. As the ice retreats, it reveals a very different northern hemisphere. The glaciers gouged out huge depressions. Now they fill with water to become North America's Great Lakes. "6,000 years ago, the ice retreats back to the poles, to the Arctic and Antarctic. After a 4.5 billion year journey, we've made it. We're back home. This is our world, our time. Now, for the first time, we can piece together our planet's incredible story. We can understand how and why everything we see around us is here today. From the skies above us, to water, the essential ingredient for life. The ground beneath our feet. And finally, life. The spectacular result of a chain of catastrophes and coincidences. Each triumph, each disaster is a step on the trail that leads to here. To each and every one of us, right now. But Earth's story doesn't end here. A lot has happened, but there's more to come. The Earth will live for at least another 4.5 billion years. Everything we've seen on our journey is only half the story. Just imagine what wonders, what terrors, what strange creatures lie ahead for our restless, creative planet.
Sacred place
The next chapter of Earth's story is still to be written.
This we cannot allow.
Take another epic voyage in Journey Through the Milky Way, brand new next Sunday at 7. Stay tuned for 2012, The Final Prophecy.
One question: why is there such a stunning diversity of life? One answer: evolution. Charles Darwin is brutally clear that explains how species adapt and change. It's been called the best idea anyone ever had. But there's one big problem. How does it actually work? Now, extraordinary science is answering that question. It is uncovered the hidden mechanisms inside creatures' bodies that can explain astonishing transformations. How birds can evolve from dinosaurs. Why a fish was once your ancestor. And above all, what makes us human. Right now on Nova, you'll find out what Darwin never knew. Species of birds, 350,000 kinds of beetles, 28,000 types of fish, 2 million living species, and counting. And we are just one. Extraordinary profusion of life on Earth come about. Today, we celebrate the man who would ultimately answer that question. Charles Darwin. He was born 200 years ago, and it is 150 years since he published the work that has become the bedrock of our understanding of life on Earth.
What Darwin wanted to understand was how you get this extraordinary diversity of life on Earth. He was spot on. He really nailed it.
Darwin's theory of evolution, his account of why species adapt and change, has been called the best idea anyone ever had. But even Darwin admitted that his work was incomplete. Last questions are still unanswered. And the biggest question is, how did evolution take place?
He didn't know any of the mechanics of that process. He didn't understand the physical process that would actually change the way species evolved.
But today, we can answer the questions that Darwin could not. We can look under the hood of evolution and see exactly how this mysterious process gives rise to such astounding diversity.
What's incredible about this time from a scientific perspective, we're going to be able to understand that diversity. And that just adds to the excitement. It doesn't demystify it. It makes it all the more magical.
And this is the magic and mystery of evolution. Over eons of time, a single species gives rise to many. An ancient fish evolves to become the ancestor of all four-limbed animals, even us. And one species, our own, develops a large and uniquely complex brain, enabling us to dominate the planet. This is the search for the answers to what Darwin never knew. Darwin began a love affair with nature when he was a child, just like many of his modern followers, including evolutionary biologist Sean Carroll.
I developed my interest in animals the same way I think most biologists did, which is either going out in the backyard or going to zoos.
And anytime I got a chance, I'd flip over logs and look for salamanders and snakes and frogs and things like this. And I was just fascinated with their patterns and behavior.
So it was with the young Charles Darwin.
Young Charles liked to traipse around the outdoors. He loved to collect beetles and things. He was a completely ordinary kid, and he didn't like school. In fact, he was such a poor student that his father, a rather successful physician and a pretty imposing figure, was worried about Darwin's direction in life.
So his father packed him off to Edinburgh, the finest medical school in Europe, to become a doctor. But young Charles was just too squeamish.
And he's really horrified by medical school. He witnessed an operation on a child, and this is in the era before anesthetics. And he just fled the operating theater, vowing never to return.
Next, his father sent him to Cambridge to study for the clergy. He didn't succeed at that either, but he did find his direction in life, reviving his childhood interest in nature.
Darwin starts on his path to his divinity degree, and he starts to mature as a student. He becomes more serious about some subjects, particularly natural history, and he learns a lot more about botany and about geology and these things. He's becoming a pretty solid field scientist.
His reputation as a naturalist gained him a spectacular invitation.
Charles was offered a place on the British Navy ship, the HMS Beagle, whose mission was to survey the waters around South America. Now, the captain of the Beagle wanted a well-educated scientific person aboard and a dinner companion, somebody to share conversation with. And Darwin fit the bill perfectly.
And so, Charles Darwin set off on a fateful voyage that would revolutionize our understanding of life's great diversity. The voyage of the Beagle took nearly 5 years. It wove its way from the Cape Verde Islands and along the coast of Brazil. It was in Argentina that he made his first important discovery.
Early on in the voyage, Darwin found some amazing fossils. He dug up some skulls, some jaws, some backbones of what turned out to be giant mammals. Now, these were clearly extinct. And Darwin began to ponder what was the relationship of those fossils to the living animals of South America.
But one port of call on Darwin's voyage proved more important than all the others.
5,
The Galapagos.
3, 2,
This cluster of 13 isolated islands lies 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador in the Pacific Ocean. These islands are home to unusual animals found nowhere else on Earth. Penguins that live at the equator can swim in warm water instead of the frigid seas of the South Pole. Giant tortoises that weigh up to 600 pounds. Iguanas, huge lizards that swim and dive in the sea. Everywhere else, they are only on land. Traveling for the first time in the Galapagos, Sean Carroll is seeing the same creatures that so intrigued Darwin.
Of all animals, I think think these marine iguanas are the greatest symbol of what I most like to see here. And you see them in their native habitat blending against that black rock, just as Darwin described it. It's an absolute thrill.
It's a hideous of a dirty black colour, stupid and sluggish in its movements. They are as black as the porous rocks over which they crawl.
Darwin meticulously described the iguanas in his diary. He was far from the scientific authority he would become.
Darwin arrived here was not the great theorist that we know today. He was a 26-year-old collector, collecting really almost at random any kind of plant, any kind of animal, any kind of rock. He didn't know what he needed until much later.
He was also fascinated by the giant tortoises, which allowed him to ride on their backs as they slowly lowered their
I frequently got on their back, and then, upon giving a few laps on the hinder part of the girl, they would back up and walk away. But I found it very difficult to keep my balance.
Darwin measured the creature's extreme slowness, about 4 miles a day, he calculated. But the local people knew something else about the tortoises.
They could tell which island any tortoise came from just by looking at its shell.
Their shells differed depending on which island they lived on. Some tortoises had shells shaped like a dome. Others had shells arcing over their heads like a salad. Others differed subtly in color. By how much the bottom of the shell filled. Darwin had literally been sitting on a truth, a way to understand the great diversity of life that he didn't yet realize. Instead, Darwin turned his attention to birds. The islands were full of what seemed to be a familiar assortment of species. So he stopped his collecting bag with what he thought were types of finches, grosbeaks, wrens, and blackbirds. And then, after 5 weeks in the Galapagos, Darwin and Eagle went to other ports in the Pacific, and finally, set sail for Holland. On board, he started to sort through the vast number of specimens he had collected on the pioneer voyage. But it was not until he returned to Britain that he was able to make sense of it. It began with a startling revelation. All the different birds he had collected actually were variations of the same type.
He learns that those birds he had collected in the Galapagos actually represent 13 different species of finch.
What misled Darwin was that they looked radically different. Some had wide, tough beaks, others had long, slender ones. And these differences depended on which islands they lived on.
4, 3, how would that be? How would it be slightly different species on different islands, all in one part of the world?
Darwin now thought back to the Galapagos tortoises. They too differed from island to island. His brain began racing.
Thoughts are starting to crystallize, take shape in his mind, bit by bit. He starts this process he describes as mental rioting, just stream of consciousness, where he's jotting down note after note after note, thoughts as they occur to him. And finally, they converge on this one idea.
What Darwin now realized was that somehow, for some reason, species change.
fortune to our friends.
Originally, there must have been just one type of finch in the Galapagos. But over time, it had diversified into many kinds, with different beak shapes. The same for the tortoises. One type of tortoise must have turned into many kinds, with different shells, depending on which island they lived on. With this great insight, Darwin entered dangerous new territory. The standard view at the time was that God had created every species, and that what God had created was perfect and could not change.
But Darwin said, no, why would the creator bother with making slightly different finches for each of these different islands that all looked alike?
The prevailing view just didn't make sense. But this was only the beginning of Darwin's revolution. He turned his attention to the fossils he had collected in South America. One was of a giant sloth. Another was of a huge armadillo-like creature. These animals were extinct. But little sloths still existed in South America, and so did smaller armadillos. What could this mean?
It dawned on him that they resembled each other, so what he had found in the ground were the buried ancestors of the living animals of South America.
So again, here was more evidence that species changed. Somehow, these ancient giants must have been transformed into the smaller creatures we see today. But what Darwin would later find out took this idea of how species change into a completely new league. In Victorian times, scientists routinely studied life forms at the embryonic stage. How these tiny forms develop from just a single cell into an entire creature has long been seen as one of the wonders of nature.
Watching a developing embryo is truly the most glorious miracle of nature. I mean, you know, no baloney.
What Darwin learned from studying the embryos amazed him. In snake embryos, you could see tiny bumps, the bony rudiments of legs. But these would never develop in the adult snake. Darwin wondered, were snakes somehow descended from animals with legs? He learned that whales, which have no teeth as adults, had them as embryos. Those teeth disappeared before they were born. To Darwin, it had to mean whales were descended from creatures with teeth. But human embryos provided the most startling evidence. Under the microscope, tiny slits around the neck were clearly visible. Exactly the same structures were found in fish. But in fish, they turned into gills. In humans, they became the bones of our inner ear. Surely, this showed that humans must be descended from fish. It's an astonishing thought.
I don't know about your ancestors, but mine included priests and, you know, the usual suspects. But the idea that all of us have fish in our family tree, I think it's amazing.
And so Darwin arrived at an astonishing